of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Before we start our regular meeting, we will have our second and final public hearing on the fiscal year 2019 millage rate and PSTA budget. The purpose of this hearing is to receive public input and allow the public to ask questions concerning the authority's tentative millage rate and proposed operating and capital budgets for fiscal year 2019. Copies of our proposed budget are available on the website, or we can get you a hard copy right here by asking Rachel up front. The proposed fiscal year 2019 budget is included herewith, totaling $132,969,160. That is the combined total of the operating budget of $81,233,908 and the capital budget of $51,735,252. The fiscal year 2019 tentative millage rate is 0.7500. The fiscal year 2019 rolled back rate is 0.7008. The fiscal year 2019 tentative millage rate of 0.7500 is 7.02% greater than the rolled back rate. PSTA's millage rate limit is 0.7500. The tentative property tax rate is used to fund the fiscal year 2019 budget. Brad, would you please read us the staff statement for the record?
Okay. This public hearing has been scheduled so that the general public may be given an opportunity to comment on the proposed millage rate and budget for fiscal year 2019. A paid advertisement concerning the public hearing appeared in the Tampa Bay Times on August 30th. Notices were posted at Park Street Terminal, Grand Central Station, Williams Park, the Pinellas Park Transit Center, here at PSTA's administrative headquarters, and on all PSTA buses on August 29th. A press release announcing the public hearing was emailed to major media contacts and social service agencies on August 29th. A notice regarding the public hearing was posted on PSTA's website on August 29th. To date, staff has received no comments from the public concerning the issue.
Okay, thank you. Brad, nothing has changed since our first public hearing, so in the interest of time, we will forego hearing the staff presentation for a second time, as it is in your packet for review. We will move right into board comments before taking public comments. Are there any board comments?
I'll have one.
Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Eckers.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm obviously happy in general with the way things have been going at PSTA and the way our committees are working and some of our outreach to the different communities around around Pinellas County and the leadership that we've shown with TBARTA. And so, I wanted to preface my comment about not supporting the budget tonight with that, because I think there's a lot of things that are going on that are good. But when you have a budget that's being presented with a $1.7 million loss, to me, I think it's just irresponsible, and I don't have specific items. I know we're going to talk about a project in St. Petersburg tonight as well, but there's a lot of things I think we could work on a little bit more diligently to bring this budget in because of our fixed millage rate, and because I would assume that in the years to come, the next 3-4 years, we're not going to have the same increases that we've been enjoying the last 3 or 4 years. These have been large increases, and yet we are spending at rates higher than what is coming in. So I just am a little bit concerned on that, and certainly can't support that kind of budget this year. So I just wanted that on the record. Thank you.
Any other board comments? Okay, hearing none, we would go to public comments. regarding the millage rate. Do we have any public comments, Rachel?
No.
Okay. No public comments then. So the fiscal year 2019 millage rate of .7500 is 7.02% higher than the rolled back rate. Would you please read the resolution title, Alan?
Resolution 1811, a resolution of the Canal Suncoast Transit Authority fixing the final millage rate to be levied for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2018, and ending September 30, 2019, and providing for an effective date.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 2019 budget?
This is millage rate. This is millage rate. Millage rate, not budget.
Fiscal
This
year
is-
2019 millage rate of .7500.
So moved.
Second.
I'll move that the millage rate be approved.
Okay. All right, Rachel, would you please open the voting machine?
I'm waiting on a survey, I'm waiting on my system
Mine's not
service.
working, I guess.
My vote, I'm a yes.
This Nate?
Yes.
Oh, she did, okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right, is that everybody now? Yeah. Okay, so that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Are there any public comments on the budget?
And we have no cards, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Alan, would you please read the resolution title for the budget?
Resolution 1812, a resolution of the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority adopting the final budget for fiscal year beginning October 1, 2018 and ending September 30, 2019 for carrying on the duties and obligations of the authority and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Rachel, would you please open, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the fiscal year 2019 budget as presented.
Second.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
The comments that I made obviously were not in the right place. Those were directed at the budget that we're now
Okay.
talking about and not the
Not the
millage
millage
rate. So my apologies to that.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. Okay, Rachel, would you please open the voting? Thank you. Let's see if everybody's works this time.
Commissioner Eggers?
He's up there.
Cut out.
We're still short one, right?
I'm up there.
No, I'm voting no. Change me to red.
Okay, the motion passes 8-3. Thank you very much. We're asking again that we move into our regular meeting. So we will take public comment on the regular meeting at this time. This is an opportunity for public comment on consent agenda items or other topics not on today's agenda. For those who would like to speak about any of the action items, we will give you an opportunity to do that when that item is discussed. Please fill out a green card and give it to Rachel up front here if we have any comments.
We have no green cards.
Okay, thank you. Moving right along, huh? Okay, so our first presentation will be on Leadership APTA by Brad Miller.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. So, I'm going to be joined by a number of our folks here, and something I'm very, very proud of. As you know, PSTA has a succession plan, and we look to have a sustainable program at PSTA, and one of the keys to that is investing in our employees. And I'm very proud of all these folks in the back because they have been, they are graduates or they're in 2 nationwide leadership programs in the public transit industry. This is a very proud moment. I look like a proud dad. This picture was taken yesterday in Nashville, Tennessee at the APTA conference where Abhishek Dayal our relatively new Director of Project Management, graduated from the Leadership APTA class of 2018, and our relatively new Director of Human Resources, Trish Collins, got inducted into the class of 2019 Leadership APTA class. So it was a great day for all of us here at PSTA. Leadership APTA selects 25 up-and-coming superstars every year from across the entire North America, Canada and transit systems, and private sector firms in the transportation world. And it's very, very competitive. So to have both Abhishek and Trish in back-to-back years get in is really an accomplishment. Now, yours truly was in Leadership APTA a long time ago. There's me in the back, and I think I was 8 years old, possibly. I've been in this for a while. In my class, there are actually now 10 CEOs of transit systems across the country out of my 25. It's a pretty awesome group. And those relationships that I established have been so helpful to me. I have called on all of those folks from time to time about things that are going on at PSTA, and they've contacted me. And that's obviously one of the key benefits of any kind of leadership program like that is the connections you make. So we'll go in chronological order here, and so next I'm going to introduce James Bradford.
Good evening, board members. James Bradford, Chief Operating Officer, and very proud to be a member of the Leadership APTA class, nationally recognized in our industry. It's a great experience for me, and I'm great to share it here with my colleagues, just being able to network with folks from other transit agencies. One of our capstone projects, and that's a picture of me at graduation, in my group, we worked on workforce planning. So very important that we looked at how do we funnel talent through the system. And I believe, if I recall, our presentation was called Maximizing the New Reality of a Revolving Workforce. And pretty much to kind of sum up, it's the importance of really recognizing who your high potential folks are within the organization, really trying to capture them, make sure that they stay engaged, make sure that they are feeling fulfilled in their job duties. And so my team discussed the importance of onboarding people, which really, after you hire them, after you recruit, you want to retain in order to sustain. So how do you onboard them right away to get them engaged, know what the company's goal, mission statement is, cross-training them. We talked about onboarding programs in our group as well, the ability to just kind of make sure that not only they know how to do their job, but giving them resources so they can do their job even better. Recognizing the different tendencies of work groups, whether it's millennials and what are the different values of the millennial work groups, to even being a manager and knowing whether or not your folks are engaged and if they're not, what you need to do. So it was really good, and just kind of in our industry, knowing how hard it is to get very good and talented people. That's why we wanted to kind of tackle that. And really, you know, there is a cost to not being able to keep your people. So that's something that we've used, and Trish and HR, PSTA University, Leadership PSTA. These are things that I've been able to be a part of and can kind of bring back to PSTA to contribute, really how we value our folks and how we make a difference and how we hold on to our folks, because really, once they get that talented, they are up for grabs, and it is hard to hang on to them sometimes. So without further ado, I'll introduce the next person, Cassandra Borchers.
Good evening. I'm Cassandra Borchers. I'm your Chief Development Officer, and I was in the class of 2016. As Jay mentioned, we do projects as part of our capstone year, and my project was entitled The New Playbook for Transit. And that is where I was able to explore with my team at Leadership APTA the new mobility paradigm, as well as the innovations in the industry and how we are going to shift from being a bus company to a mobility provider. And so you've seen some of the things that I've brought back from Leadership APTA when it comes to our Direct Connect program, our partnerships with Uber and Lyft. Our Sandbox project was able to come out of those innovation projects, as well as some future projects that you'll see on autonomous vehicles, as well as our electric buses. So I was very proud to be part of Leadership APTA. and I was able to bring a lot back to the agency. I'm even more proud that some of my colleagues have been able to go through the program, and so I'd like to have Abhishek tell you about his project.
Good evening, board members. I'm Abhishek Dayal, Director of Project Management, and I was part of the new class of 2018. I graduated yesterday, so this was a very, very fruitful and really productive program, and my capstone project was it was titled The New Language of Transit. So essentially, it's looking at new ways to really communicate the value our industry brings to our communities. What I plan on bringing on is working with our marketing team to explore some new ways to market and brand our services and talk about the importance that we bring to our communities' lives. And then also another added benefit to the program was the extensive professional networks that I could draw upon, especially as we take on several projects here at PSTA. Now, besides Leadership APTA, APTA also has programs for up-and-coming individuals who are really doing well, excelling in our industry, and that's called the Emerging Leaders Program. And so Tamika White was fortunate to be included in the Emerging Leaders class in 2019, so I'm going to introduce her.
Good evening. My name is Tamika White. I'm the Senior Organizational Development Manager here at PSTA. And as Abhishek said, I am really excited about being in APTA's Emerging Leaders Program this year. It actually kicked off in June, and I'll be graduating next May of 2019. The Emerging Leaders Program is for individuals who are within their first 5 to 7 years of working in transit. So for me, it has been eye-opening just to be exposed to the transit industry at large. It's also been a wonderful opportunity to network with other high-potential employees and to share best practices that I can always bring back here to PSTA. One of the biggest takeaways that I'm most excited about is to be able to compare this leadership development program that's on a national level with what we're offering here in-house with our leadership PSTA development program. So throughout this year, I'll be copying and stealing lots of things and bringing it back here to PSTA to make our program much more robust. And I just want to take this time to thank Brad and James for nominating me for the program. It's been transformational thus far. Thank you. Oh, and I have the privilege of introducing our HR Director, Trish Collins.
Thank you, Tamika. And I want to say that I am so proud that Tamika is joining the Human Resources Department, so she's going to bring all of this expertise and insight right where we need it. I am fresh off my trip to Nashville for the kickoff for Leadership APTA. I'm going to be part of the class of 2019. I had an opportunity to see Abhishek graduate. That was a very inspiring moment. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is knowing that as an industry we are all dealing with the same issues, whether it's mobility management or the changing workforce or emerging technologies. And we know here that we are going to find the best solutions by operating regionally, by operating on a state collaborative level, and nationally with thought leaders to help find the best solutions. Leadership APTA and the other internal programs that we have and the Emerging Leaders programs are really powerful ways to build those relationships and get that collaboration going to be successful in these new environments. I want to also thank my team here, Brad Miller, Cassandra, Abhishek, James, and Tamika for all being very supportive, both up until this point and as I go into the program as well. It's an honor to be nominated from the agency. Thank you.
So they'll take autographs at the end of the meeting, but pretty rock star.
Careful.
Congratulations to all of you. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to committee updates. And our first committee will be the Transit Riders Advisory Committee, and Gloria Lepic-Corrigan will be presenting the report.
Thanks, Marianne. Okay. Good evening. Chair Barkley, Mr. Miller, esteemed board members. The track met on September 18th. Our first action item was a presentation by CEO Brad Miller regarding the operating agreement with the Looper. Mr. Miller explained that PSTA, working in conjunction with the St. Petersburg Downtown Partnership, the City of St. Petersburg, and the Florida Department of Transportation, FDOT, is recommending increased operating span of service and an expanded route on the Looper, which will include the Innovation District. Excuse me, okay. Plus, this will integrate the region's first PSTA electric bus into the downtown service. You will be hearing more about this exciting expansion at today's board meeting. TRAC members had a number of questions and a great deal of favorable comments about the proposed expansion, and we unanimously approved, from our perspective, the proposed 3-year agreement. We then unanimously approved 4 revisions to the TRAC bylaws. These include amendments to member criteria, term limits, and quorum notices. This is an item for your approval today in the consent agenda. And then our final agenda item was an informational presentation by Bonnie Epstein, Senior Planner, to update the committee on PSTA's shelter deployment plan. TRAC members, TRAC members complimented the proposed expansion of the new shelters throughout the county and asked a number of questions related to the criteria that are used for selecting new shelters, the removal of other shelters, and underutilized locations. Ms. Epstein explained how the Shelter Match Program partners with local municipalities, organizations, and businesses to share the cost of shelter installation to meet community needs. TRAC members were then reminded about the critical importance of finding and submitting recommendations for additional TRAC Star nominees, and we ask you to do the same. You can find the TRAC Star Award application in the TRAC section of the PSTA website. And then also, we are still recruiting TRAC members for 2019, and we asked our members to come up with additional recommendations, and also we refer anyone who's interested in applying to TRAC to the psta.net/join-TRAC. The next TRAC meeting will be held on October 16th, and as always, we welcome you to attend. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next report will be from Commissioner Patty Johnson.
Thank you. The local coordinating, okay, it's on?
Yeah, it's on. Here, go ahead.
The local coordinating board met September 18th in Forward Pinellas Conference Room in downtown Clearwater. The meeting began with a presentation by Forward Pinellas Planning Manager, Chelsea Favreau, about It's Time, Tampa Bay. The presentation concluded with a promise to send this transportation priorities survey to LCB members for further distribution. Next, Mecca Surfastini, Healthcare Coordinator for Pinellas County Emergency Management Department, discussed the agency's plans and procedures for the special needs population in storm events involving evacuation orders. She focused on special needs registration, transportation, and making improvements based upon lessons learned from Hurricane Irma. We then heard from the newest agency to join the coordinated system, Creative Clay. Marcy Miller, Director of Human Relations and Vocational Services, provided information on the services which Creative Clay provides, including how their new vans are used to get those they serve to venues throughout St. Petersburg where they create wonderful exhibits of their artwork. The local coordinating board approved the annual operating report for the Transportation Disadvantaged program. The report includes information on the past year's trips and resources associated with them for all agencies within the coordinated system. This information will be used by the TD Commission as a factor in determining PSTA's future TD grant allocation. The next LCB meeting is scheduled for November 27th. And just a little note aside, we still have a huge, huge, huge demand for more transportation disadvantaged folks. The programs that Cassandra talked about, brought to us, are going like gangbusters. People from other counties and communities are all calling. How do we get this? How did you get it? So it's a very, very impressive time for PSTA and for transportation. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Okay, next on the committee updates is Forward Pinellas, and Chair of Forward Pinellas, Commissioner Doreen Cowdell will speak.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, there we go. Okay, that's on. Okay, both the Forward Pinellas Board and the Legislative Subcommittee met on September 12th. Like last year, Forward Pinellas is looking to hear from its partners on legislative requests and local bills that relate to land use, economic development and redevelopment, and transit, so that we can all understand the requests and help support and reinforce the requests when we are able to go and align possible partners to avoid surprises and potential conflicts. At the September board meeting, Forward Pinellas staff presented the results of the statistically valid survey that reflected the geographic diversity of Pinellas County and will help guide the development of Advantage Pinellas. 844 residents responded, and there was generally support for transit service, but split opinions on increased funding to make it happen. Isn't funding always the hiccup? As I mentioned last month, or as Commissioner Long mentioned last month, Forward Pinellas is working with Hillsborough and Pasco's MPO on a regional survey, It's Time Tampa Bay. This interactive survey asks about transportation investments and how we should grow as a region. The recommendations that result from the survey will help us create our first 3-county regional long-range transportation plan. Please take it and tell your friends and family. The survey is available at itstimetambabay.org. Also, at the September Forward Pinellas meeting, Florida Department of Transportation Special Projects Administrator Marshall Hampton presented an update on Tampa Bay Next projects, including the procurement process for construction of the new Howard Franklin Bridge, which has begun, and the contract award date is November 8th. The Forward Pinellas Board adopted its priority lists for 2018, which includes multimodal projects such as the Central Avenue BRT project and the Clearwater Beach Busway. Forward Pinellas has issued a call for projects for Complete Streets construction and the concept planning projects. Local governments are encouraged to apply. Information is available on the Forward Pinellas website. Tampa Bay Next and Forward Pinellas are having a community working group meeting on October 22nd at 5:30 at John Hopkins Education and Conference. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And lastly, Brad Miller will give us the T-BARTA report.
Okay, I'm certain I will not be able to give this with the passion that Chair Long talks about T-BARTA, but I'll do my best to quickly summarize that. A historical event happened with T-BARTA adopting actually a real budget. Thanks to our CFO, Debbie Leas, preparing a budget for T-BARTA. That was the first action they took in their meeting on September 21st. But that immediately followed by the interviews of 4 candidates to be the new executive director of T-BARTA, and after a long process of shortlisting and then doing full interviews of the candidates, Mr. David Green, who was most recently the executive director of the Greater Richmond, Virginia Transit Company, was selected by the T-BARTA board unanimously. I think David hopefully will start in about a month or so. That's very important. Obviously, getting T-BARTA back on its legs financially with strong financial footing, getting new leadership in place are two very critical milestones for the agency. The other key then is now moving forward to the 2019 state legislative session in Tallahassee, and our Chair Long also chairs that T-BARTA legislative committee, and so they are putting together their legislative requests, one of which will be to ask the legislature for recurring funding for T-BARTA. Rather than just sort of picking a number out of the hat like they did last year, this year the amount that they're going to ask the legislature for is $1.5 million, and that's based on the budget that now is in place. So I think that's very important. In addition to the $1.5 million, the DOT has allocated $1 million in funding last year, and then $5 million additional dollars to T-BARTA this year, in this year's work program by FDOT to advance the regional bus rapid transit proposal, the 41-mile long sort of core spine network. So those projects will be moving forward under T-BARTA and under Mr. Green's new leadership. The next T-BARTA board meeting is October 26th, 9:30 at FDOT District 7. I think we've gotten an arrangement moving forward that rather than having T-BARTA be at a different location in the greater Tampa Bay region every single month, the last one was in Pasco County, there was one in Manatee County, that they're going to be back and forth between PSTA, this room here, and Hart over in Hillsborough County, sort of in the center of the larger region. But this one on October 26th is at FDOT. That concludes the T-BARTA report.
Okay, thank you.
Just as an update, the meeting's at Hart on October 26th.
Oh, okay.
And Mr. Green, his start date is expected to be October 26th.
Oh, okay.
So just update you on that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone wants to be pulled from the consent agenda?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, would you open the voting, please? Rachel? Thank you.
Correct. It's not. Yes or no? Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. We have unanimous approval on this item. Okay, thank you. The action items for this evening, the first item is the proposed fiscal year 2019 performance scorecard. This has been an exciting initiative by PSTA in its first year, and it's good to see we're continuing to develop it for another year. Trish Collins, PSTA's Human Resources Director, has done a great job of leading this scorecard effort. Trish?
Thanks. Good evening, Commissioner Barkley and esteemed board members. So tonight I am here to discuss beginning the second year of PSTA's Performance Counts Scorecard, and I'm here to request your adoption of the fiscal year 19 scorecard. You do have a copy of the proposed scorecard at your places. And to remind you kind of an overview of what you're looking at, we have along the right-hand column the 5 strategic areas. We have detail on the individual metrics within those strategic areas. Each metric has a performance goal, that's the target that we're attempting to hit, and a number of points that goal is worth if we fully meet the target. Those points go together into an overall score, which is found at the bottom of the page. You also have a page attached to the scorecard which gives additional detail about each metric. So it tells what the metric is, how do we measure it, what's included or not included, what systems are being used to derive the data for those metrics. So a lot of detail here for those pieces. For the FY19 update, we have taken a lot of the comments that we've received from you throughout this year into consideration as we made our updates, as well as lessons learned that we discovered as an organization as we went through the year. You will see, for example, that we've added an Org 18 metric. It's the very last one on there that's going to give you an overall measure of the BRT design process, because that is such an important strategic initiative for us this year. And I believe that that was Commissioner Bennett who suggested that, so thank you very much for that. We also have tied all of our performance goals to our metrics, either to improving historical PSTA performance or to external benchmarks, whether it's an industry-wide benchmark or peer networking, peer exchange benchmarks. So that's been a great improvement for us as well. As you recall, the balanced scorecard was implemented last October, so we are near the end of our very first year under the system. It aligns all of the goals of the organization in one direction to 5 key strategic areas: community support, financial stability, customer satisfaction, employee engagement, and commitment to performance. These are the most important high-level strategic areas, and really all of our operational activities feed into these 5 areas. So when we are demonstrating our performance in these 5 areas, they're incorporating the performance in many, many staff-level decisions and initiatives that are feeding into these higher-level areas. For example, community support is really wrapping in non-rider perceptions, funding partnerships, our environmental sustainability. Our financial stability measures are wrapping up the impact of strategic decisions, route ridership, route efficiencies. Those are all impacting our financial stability metrics. So you're seeing the impact and the outcome of all of the staff decisions and initiatives that are happening. One of the things that's so great about a balanced scorecard system like this is that it is showing you results and outcome, not just the effort that we're making. Are we working hard? Yes. Is it having the impact that we want to have? That's what you want to know. And that's what the score is really reflecting. So your scorecard allows you to really hold us accountable to the high-level outcomes that you want to see from the agency. At this point in the year, we have come before you with third quarter data. We are wrapping up our fiscal year data, of course, as the fiscal year closes. So I'll be back before you again in November to give you the final report for fiscal year 18. What we know so far is that we're demonstrating success in these 5 areas. We are, of course, always continually striving to improve, but we're very proud of the work that we've been able to demonstrate to you through our metrics this year. We are also seeing organization-wide benefits from having a scorecard, balanced scorecard system in place. For example, all of our employees know what direction we're headed in. We've publicized our 5 key strategic areas everywhere. We talk about them in meetings. If you ask our employees, they know what the 5 key priorities are at PSTA. Employees therefore have an understanding, especially because the scorecard is used for their own performance management, they understand directly how their work impacts the goals of the agency, creates a much more deep and specific sense of meaning for the impact of their work. We're leveraging data-driven decisions, goal-setting skills and strategies throughout the entire organization. So that's not just something that lives at the executive level anymore. Our employees are understanding the value of measuring and reporting data and making decisions based on that data at all levels. And we're seeing much more increased interdepartmental collaboration as we truly are getting a better understanding of how the different departments work, interacts, and impacts each other. That's leading to improved processes in our operations area, improved standard operating procedures, so that we can have improved performances to come to you with. We're also expanding our use of benchmarking, which is wonderful as we are really striving to be industry leaders and learn from the best practices of other folks within the industry. And there's a cultural shift to really celebrating the achievements that we're making, because we can be much more specific in the goals that we're setting and know exactly when we reach them. So there's a culture developing of celebrating and recognizing these achievements when we meet our goals. So the Performance Counts Balanced Scorecard System has been a wonderful tool for us this year. It's been very effective in driving our operational performance, the achievement of our key strategic objectives, and it's been a wonderful moving the needle in our culture to make us a much more effective organization. So I am asking you this evening to approve continuing to use the Performance Count Scorecard and adopting the draft which you have before you for fiscal year 2019.
Okay. Thank you very much, Trish. Any comments from the board? Questions? Any public comment?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, Rachel, would you open the voting, please? One more somewhere. Okay, there we go. Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Trish.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next we're going to learn more about our new Looper agreement, and Cassandra is going to give us a rundown of how that is proceeding.
Good evening. This action item before you is to approve an agreement between the Looper Inc. and PSTA for a fiscal year 19 cost not to exceed $653,538 and a maximum 3% annual escalation for the term of the 3-year agreement. For over 20 years, the Looper has been serving downtown St. Petersburg, and PSTA has participated in its operations. Over the last couple of years, we've been working to look at the changing dynamic of downtown St. Petersburg, and with new residential development and increased employment opportunities, there's a need to take a look at the downtown circulation. That, coupled with our new project, the Central Avenue BRT, we're really preparing downtown to have an aspect of car-free living. So in order to kick this off, we wanted to incorporate service to the new Innovation District and significantly increase the service span for the downtown circulation with earlier morning service and later night weekday service as well. This would maintain the 15-minute frequency during most of the service, but increase the frequency in the evening time. It would take an additional vehicle, and while the Looper continues to put 2 vehicles on there, we have our opportunity to put our electric vehicle in downtown St. Petersburg, and that allows us to take a look at this new technology and how we can expand it to the rest of the system while serving downtown St. Petersburg. Over the last couple years, we've been working with a number of stakeholders across downtown to take a look at this new routing. It includes the Chamber and the Dali Museum, and we really wanted to make sure that it complements all the other investments that we're making in downtown St. Petersburg, not just the Central Avenue BRT, but the changes to the Central Avenue trolley, the inclusion of the Cross Bay Ferry over the winter season, the new pier stops, and all of the new activity that's happening in downtown. We are recommending that we have this service to be without a fare. Right now the fare is 50 cents, and we're recommending that it now be free to all of downtown. We are also promoting this to be begin during our October service change on October 7th. In addition to that, we're changing the look of this wayfinding, make it more congruous with what downtown is doing, and also have better information for our riders to understand exactly when their vehicle would be coming and the 2 different types of vehicles that would be available for the service. For the total cost of this new service, PSTA is providing the electric bus and the operations for that electric bus. The City of St. Petersburg, along with the Florida Department of Transportation and the Downtown Partnership, would be supporting the 2 vehicles on the trolley. So for this particular contract, this would be a pass-through contract where the money from the Florida Department of Transportation, as well as the city of St. Petersburg, would come to PSTA, and then we would then distribute that to the looper for their cost per revenue hour, as indicated in the agreement. So while the trolley-only service cost is $767,000, the contribution of the downtown partnership in terms of stakeholder agreements and advertising does cover almost 10% of the cost, and so we would realize that savings. Again, this is a 3-year agreement that matches our service development grant, which is a total of $900,000 that we agreed with the city of St. Petersburg to spread over the first 3 years of the service. And again, there is a maximum escalation of 3%, and that keeps our costs regular and able to be budgeted for following years. And of course, we're very excited that this will be the electric bus route. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them. I understand that the Finance Committee did have a conversation about this, and we're unable to recommend it at this time, but are bringing it to the full board.
Thank you. Yes, the Finance Committee did have a meeting on this topic, and we recommended approval on this. Are there any questions for the board? Any public comment? Oh, you have one? Okay.
I do too.
Commissioner Rice?
I do too.
I just wanted to thank you, Cassandra, and Eric Carlson, who's here tonight also. I haven't been party to all of the many meetings that went to make this happen, but I participated in quite a few and saw that there was just a lot of diligent work over the years on this, and thank you, because this is a really good, well thought out route. I think it's important that we moved from the trolley route that was eventually based on these subscription stops. It was kind of like a pay-to-play. People would chip in money to advertise on the bus, and that's how the route was determined. So to have PSTA partner and really look at how we develop a new route with new partners that services growing residential areas and the innovation district, and to see how it lines up with, the CAT and with the emerging BRT route. It really it's much harder to do than what it looks like. I'm also not sure how many other projects PSTA has been able to work on where you see such incredible collaboration with local partners, the city kicking in money, the downtown partnership, FDOT, and the city, the county, of course, in part contributed to the electric bus with the contributions of the BP, from their BP funds. So I don't know how many examples of partnership there are like that, but I think this really serves as a great example. And so that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to, I'm really excited for this new service in downtown St. Pete, and thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rice. I have a correction. The Finance Committee voted 50-50 on this project, move it forward today. Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah, thank you. I would echo those comments about partnerships. I think that's what really made this happen, and a lot of hard work that went into it. Just a question, and I probably asked you during the meeting that we had, but the $653,000 that you're talking, that not to exceed, is that for 3 years?
That's a single year. It's a fiscal year 19.
So our part is 653?
Our part is 389.
Okay, so what down below the recommendation, I was just looking at your recommendation. I assumed that was PSTA's part, but that's, what is the recommendation there for?
To enter into an agreement with the looper for $653,000.
Of whose money?
It would be the city's and FDOT's.
Okay, so not ours.
Not our money.
So you're not looking for any approval of our monies?
No, sir.
Okay. And so that was my first question. That did not come to me clearly during our finance meeting, so that's helpful. Also, the idea of the fare forgiving, what's your estimate of the amount of money that we're foregoing on that, and just kind of your thoughts behind doing that to a group of people typically who can afford that? Your thoughts?
When we did a research about downtown circulators, generally they are free. It increases the ridership and the usage on them, and well as encourages people to park once when they come into a downtown area. So much of what the congestion is during events is people searching for parking, and if they know that they can park once and get on a free trolley, they're more likely to use it. In addition to that, the 50 cents that is generated right now by the Looper generates about $15,000 a year. And we thought with the partnership with the city wanting to make it free and the contribution that they had in it, we agreed that this would be a free service. We think that with the opening of the pier, we'll see a number of increases in ridership as well as the marketing partnership that we have with the Downtown Partnership as the transportation management organization. We've been able to leverage additional dollars from the Florida Department of Transportation through the commuter services programs in order for us to promote this service to residents and employees.
And no, you don't have any concerns about precedent then as it relates to tourist-related transportation initiatives that we may be taking, like, you know, I'm thinking specifically of the Clearwater to airport service that we have, and establishing a free service basically for tourists. I heard your explanation, but you separate that from that other service that we might be looking at.
Yeah, this is a very small area. And you consider it like a zone of free service. And so it's pretty common to have that kind of service in a downtown area.
And I know the city of Dunedin entered into a relationship in North County at some point, and it is quite a contributor to that service. But at some point, I thought there was some discussion there about PSTA taking on more of that route. So again, additional things that we're taking on, because that's a tourism that's a tourism route as well.
Yes, and as you know, we do have a service that we operate during spring training up in Dunedin, and that is a free ride as well, free park and ride promotion, and that is funded by PSTA, not by the city of Dunedin.
Thank you. Appreciate your answers.
Any other questions? Commissioner Justice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just because maybe I'm just missing part of this, but so the electric bus that we've been planning for downtown Loop for a while, that's being phased into part of the Looper system?
Yes, it will be co-running with the Looper route, yes.
And that, so the old route that we talked about replacing with the electric bus, that was different than the Looper, correct? So has that been melded into that route now?
So the Looper as it is today will be this new route. So together, the Looper Inc. will operate 2 trolleys, we will operate the electric bus, and we've created a schedule that allows us to do that with those 3 buses.
I guess that I thought we were replacing a route, and I don't remember the number, with the electric buses because it was primarily downtown, but it wasn't contained solely within that. So I guess, have we left part of some route out with the combination now?
No, we have not eliminated any routes in the downtown area. There is the Route 32, which is serves some low-income areas that we are keeping at this time.
Is it Route 4 that was the original intended to replace with the electric?
Commissioner, I think you are having good memory because a later phase of our electric bus rollout plan does call for future electric buses to be used on longer distance routes. And I believe it's Route 11, which goes from approximately, St. Petersburg north here to PSTA, where we would have another charging location. But that's a future phase. These are the first 2 electric vehicles we have, and so we're sort of cautionarily selecting the Looper because it's a contained.
And that absolutely makes sense. It just in my older memory, I was thinking that it was some other combination of a route and so, but okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson, excuse me.
That's okay, thank you. Cassandra, I want to especially thank you for part of the Looper, which is 6th Avenue South, Mountain Park Avenue, and 7th Avenue South. That's the hospital, and that's part of, and it being free, that neighborhood needs that desperately. And so while it's free and it's well, quote, tourists, I can promise you that there are going to be a ton of people that want to hug you. It's just a tough place to be without any transportation. Awesome. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
I needed that today, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments? Commissioner Schulman, I'm sorry, I didn't look down that way. I was looking this way, I'm sorry.
There we go.
There we go.
Not a problem, I actually turned it on later. I'm a little concerned about characterizing these changes as being for tourists. The old trolley, or the old looper, was tourism focused, but by increasing the amount of time, earlier start time, 7, 8 a.m., increasing evening hours, this is really an opportunity for the city of St. Pete and as well as PSTA to gain ridership by moving the residents in downtown around, allowing those of us that are north of downtown to connect into the downtown corridor via, I can take the 4 now into downtown and have an opportunity to get around. And I like the fact that we're also we're looking ahead to connecting with the ferry, the ferry service, the integrating BRT, the Central Avenue trolley. So my hope is that we do see more residents using the Looper service, and then those residents looking at our other options to take them throughout the county, and this being that gateway transit being free, allowing them to experience transit and see how they can use it better.
Great. Thank you very much for your comments, everyone. Any other comments? Okay. All right, at this point, then, I would ask for a motion to approve the Looper agreement.
Move approval?
Second.
Okay. We had several. Okay, and second? Okay, we're good. All right, very good. Rachel, would you please open the voting?
Did you ask for public comment?
Oh, public comment on this? I think I did ask for it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm asleep here. Okay.
One more?
We're still missing one.
No.
Okay. Thank you. Project Management and Construction Management Services Contract. Looking forward to that. Thank you.
Good evening again, board members. So tonight, the action item in front of you is to award the Central Avenue BRT Project Management Construction Management Services Contract. Now, last month, I was here and the board had taken action on awarding the design services contract for the same project, and that was awarded to H.W. Lochner. So this month, we're requesting action on the project management and construction management services contract, which I'll go into more detail as we go down the presentation. So just as you know, the Central Avenue BRT project, this is a 11-mile bus rapid transit corridor with 17 stations. It connects the cities of St. Petersburg, South Pasadena, and St. Pete Beach. Total project cost is $41.36 million, and as you're aware, we're working very closely with the Federal Transit Administration as part of the New Starts program to obtain $20.35 million towards the project cost. And the local share is coming from FDOT, City of St. Petersburg, St. Pete Beach, as well as PSTA. Now, as part of the Central Avenue BRT project, we anticipate awarding 4 total contracts to implement this project. And what you see here in front of you is the overall structure of how this project would be managed. Last month, as I mentioned, this board took action on awarding the design services contract to H.W. Lochner. And this month, we're seeking the board's approval to award the project management and construction management services contract to HDR. And essentially, HDR will be overseeing the two design and construction services, as well as coordinate with our maintenance team on the vehicle procurement for this project. Now, the PMCM, or the Project Management Construction Management Services contract, is similar to H.W. Lochner, a 3-year task order-based contract overseeing design and construction activities. So they will bring in a team of experts with knowledge of FTA guidance, procedures and rules, as well as, so essentially they will serve as the extension of the PSTA's project management staff by bringing on quick access to specialized expertise depending on the phase of the project. And this is usually considered best practices from around the country to bring on a PMCM services early on during the design services contract or design services. And more importantly, all the activities covered under this contract are included in the Central Avenue BRT project cost, which is the $41.36 million that I mentioned earlier. So PSTA had issued a request for qualifications last month, and 2 firms had submitted a statement of qualifications. A 3-member evaluation committee was formulated, comprising of 2 PSTA staff and staff from City of St. Petersburg. The evaluation committee recommended that HDR Inc. was the most qualified team between the 2 teams. And so upon the board action, staff will begin negotiations to begin the initial task order as part of this contract. So once again, this is just a reminder that HDR, or the Project Management Construction Management Services team, will be overseeing the design services contract that was awarded to H.W. Lochner, and then a future construction contract down the road when we start construction. And then they'll also coordinate with our facilities team on the vehicle procurement. So I do have a proposed project manager, Mr. Ron Garafa, and the deputy project manager, Mr. Howard Newman, in the audience here. To conclude, the recommendation here in front of you is again to award the Central Avenue BRT Project Management and Construction Management Services contract to HDR Inc. for a not to exceed value of $1.7 million. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Abhishek. Questions or comments from the board? Okay, I'm seeing my board laid up. Okay. So first would be Commissioner Bennett. Go ahead, please, sir.
Yes, I had read somewhere recently where maybe the $20.35 million from the Department of Transportation wasn't a done deal. So can we get some further information on that?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So we are working very closely with FTA. Our goal was to have a grant agreement executed with Federal Transit Administration by October of 19. And that's usually a 6-month-long process. There are several requirements that FTA has every project sponsor fulfill, such as undergoing a risk assessment. They also do a very thorough review of the project costs and design. So when we come to a point where we're at a certain design, as you recall, the board awarded the design services contract to H.W. Lochner, so they haven't really started the design yet. So when we do get to a point where the design is at 60%, that's when we really engage with FTA to start the grant agreement process.
So you're pretty confident that that grant's on its way, it's just a year away?
Well, we are working closely with FTA to make sure we fulfill all the requirements as we go down the road, and work with FTA staff, and we'll continue to keep the board engaged as well on where we are on that process.
Commissioner, thank you for acknowledging that you saw my email when I forwarded the board that article that was showing that there is an issue in Washington, D.C. right now where Congress is approving the overall nationwide pot of money that we're competing for, but the administration is well, it's a question that the grants are not coming out, they're not spending the money that Congress is appropriating the Department of Transportation at, and so the money is sort of building up there. And Congress has, my understanding is Congress has passed different laws and things to try to force the administration to dole out the grants, but it's just slowing down, the process is slowing down like everything in Washington is, and that right now is not really a problem for PSTA because we're in the middle of design, we're a year away, but projects this year might get slowed down and that will just, you know, clog up the whole flow. I think from talking to our legislative folks, Congress is again going to approve, if they haven't already, approved a transportation budget for FY19 that will increase the funding for these kinds of projects. And our project is very competitive, so we feel very, very good about it. It's just this issue right now between Congress and the administration on the pace at which they're issuing these grants.
Okay, Commissioner Justice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this it's my silly question about this project. I ask at least once a year when it comes up. And I don't know if this is project management or design or in our new marketing and branding department, but what are we actually going to call this project since it's actually not on Central Avenue?
Go for it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Commissioner, and you are correct. It's not on Central Avenue, even though it supports all the ridership along Central Avenue, but since most of the businesses are on Central Avenue, and that's something that we will have to work with our PSTA's marketing team to make sure it's reflective of the actual lanes that it's going to, or the streets it's going to be on, and the markets it's supporting. So it's still a work in progress.
Very good.
Okay. And Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah, thank you, Abhishek, for the presentation. The 1.7 million that we've approved on the design, you said 60% of it would be spent, I guess, before we really engage FTA in more depth. Is that?
What I was referring to was the 60% design milestone. So the whole contract will have design milestones in terms of when we have a 30% design, 60% design, and 90% design, and then final design. But that's not linear, so it's not truly reflective of the actual expenditures. We understand that the first phase for the design contract will require a lot of additional community outreach and working with our project partners to really understand project risks. So phase one actually might be more expensive than phase two, which takes us to 60% design. So,
and what project management costs do you see us incurring before we get the go-ahead? I mean, do you see it mostly in design cost? Most of our upfront costs would be in design.
The contract is going to be a task order based contract. So the first task order will essentially oversee the design contract. So any activities that are done during design will be supported by the PMCM team, and that includes third-party coordination, working with essentially FTA and making sure we meet their requirements during the design phase.
And I assume that, I think we all feel good about the project and where it ranks, but assuming that it doesn't get approved, who's paying for these expenses? Would that be a PSTA expense? I mean, I assume it's part of the overall project if it goes through, but we're fronting that, and then we would just have to eat that part, I'm assuming, in any part of that design that we would, or management contract that we would have incurred.
So typically, most of and this happens across the country for projects that are seeking New Starts funding, because usually the federal funding comes towards the end. So project sponsors do have to front some of the local portion of the funding that's proposed, and then it gets reimbursed from Federal Transit Administration once the grant agreement is signed. And as you recall, the grant agreement, what we're targeting is October of 19, and the project will essentially be done by end of 2020. So all the expenses through October of 19 will be borne with the local funding sources.
Okay, so the two questions would be then, that we will be at risk for something if it doesn't happen. There's an amount estimated. And then it sounds as though you just made a comment that was a little worrisome, that we get most of the federal money at the end, so that we have to front most of the money, or is it kind of paid monthly, or how are we reimbursed for our expenses on that?
Debbie, you want to take that?
Good evening.
Hi.
To answer your question, as we go down the road, and we have FDOT as a partner in this first phase in the design piece as well as PSTA, but as we go down the road in the construction side, and as the invoices come in and get approved, we will be able to do either one of two things: have the money up front, pay it, and get reimbursed within 3 days, or get the money from FTA and pay it out within 3 days. So it'll be a very minuscule time period in there if we are at risk from the FTA.
So
That is your question?
Yeah, that does. We're not going to be getting reimbursed at the very end. We'll be getting reimbursed as we go along. I just would like to know at some point what the estimated exposure is if the project doesn't happen in total dollars. So at some point, it doesn't have to happen tonight. Just thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, let me just read into the record. This task order was for review of design, construction, oversight, developing independent cost estimates, project control activities, and was unanimously approved by the Finance Committee. So if there are no questions from the board, are there any public questions? Okay, hearing none. Rachel, would you open the, we need a motion and a second, please.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay. Okay, would you open the voting, please, Rachel? Okay, unanimously approved. Thank you very much, everyone. And date on reports and correspondence, please.
So in your packet are our typical reports that we have. The month of August saw once again, a record ridership on DART, our service for people with disabilities. It also showed a record number of trips on our mobility programs, is what we're calling our connections, our first mile, last mile programs with Uber and Lyft, and our TD late shift programs, and that keeps growing.
Thank you.
Just the last few days in Nashville, of course, there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of praise for PSTA for sort of leading the way on partnering with Uber and Lyft to save money and to provide more connections to transit. The industry and all of the transportation industry is starting to put together proposals for the next federal authorization of transportation, which doesn't happen until 2020, but the planning is already starting now. And I was happy to be appointed to a group of transit professionals from around the country to put together some proposals on these mobility kind of programs for Congress, like counting the rides in the formula. That's been on our legislative agenda, and I think, I'm going to push for it to be on the whole industry's agenda as well. So I think that's a positive step. I also want to highlight on your future meetings, of course, you're welcome to join us down in St. Petersburg for the first bus of our, hopefully, in the future, multiple electric bus program unveiling. Next month on your agenda, speaking of that, and speaking of partnerships, thanks to Henry Lukasik's savvy negotiating skills, Duke Power is going to pay for some of the charging equipment, and that's going to be on your agenda to accept Duke Power money to fund some charging equipment here at PSTA. So that's pretty exciting. And then also coming up on October 22nd is the nominating committee of PSTA. So PSTA has, as you know, a number of committees. Rachel will be sending out a survey for The executive committee, finance committee, planning, legislative, and nominating. If you are happy with the committee that you're on, you can say that, or if you have some other interest, please let her know. And before October 22nd. That concludes my remarks, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right. Is there any other business to come before the committee? Seeing none, then I'll ask for any board member comments. And do I see any board member comments? I do not. Here we go. Commissioner Schulman. I would have been really upset if you hadn't had
It's not the finance committee, so. And mine's not really a comment, it's more of a question. I understand the autonomous vehicle testing that's going to be occurring down in St. Pete is coming up. Do we have an official start date? Is there a kickoff for that?
Unfortunately, there's not so good news on that front. We were hoping, we have been planning to start it on November 1st, but there is a issue I don't know all the details about, but we have a conference call hopefully being scheduled with some folks with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, which is in DC, and they have put a hold on all permitting of autonomous vehicles. We wouldn't get in trouble because there was no such thing as NHTSA police, I learned that. But the vehicle manufacturer would get in trouble if we ran an autonomous vehicle without a permit. And so there's a number of, our pilot program is sort of on hold while this thing gets worked out in DC. Gainesville, Florida has been trying, and they're on hold. Austin, Texas is on hold. So there's everybody is on hold until, and I've heard different reasons why they're not issuing permits that I'm not sure what the right answer is, but more to follow on that once we understand what's going on with it.
I
It's still our plan. We have the funding, we have the marketing and all ready to go, so stay tuned.
I was hoping for a better report, so I don't want to be a downer on that, but I definitely would appreciate a follow-up on how that's coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Eggers.
No, I just had one comment, just to congratulate the team that is involved with APTA. It really does sound like a wonderful opportunity, and you can already tell the dividends that we're getting here from your involvement. And like as Brad said, the relationships you build there will last you probably your whole career. So anyway, best wishes to all of you as you continue to bring ideas back to us. So congrats.
And Commissioner Rice.
Yeah, I also wanted to just say how proud I am of our APTA graduates and people who are entering the program. So you really do make us proud. Thank you very much. And I also just wanted to share briefly with the board that week before last, I had the opportunity to go to San Francisco for the Global Climate Summit. And one of the first programs I took place that I participated in was a tour of the Proterra bus factory in California. And Proterra is one of the manufacturers of electric buses, and this plant in particular manufactured the batteries. So it was a really interesting look at the manufacturing and design process of the batteries, and to see how they test these batteries under very extreme temperature and physical conditions, how the recycling of these batteries is a big part of the business. And it was just a really interesting look at a changing technology. So just wanted to share that. It was pretty cool.
Thank you very much. Okay, if there are no other comments, then I will move to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Awesome.
I know.
Yep.
I figured, I was trying to, it's just the technology. They're all doing it. It's not like, although Proterra's putting everything on top with their batteries. Okay.
When I was on it.
No, it was yours before.
Us too.
Yeah, yeah.
They haven't given up on
And
it.
actually, I watched it recorded, not live.
How'd it come?